Every shooter from the aughts had some kind of enemy faction to dump bullets and or plasma into. Halo had the Covenant, Dead Space had the Necromorphs, which are a faction, kind of, if you squint. Half-Life had the Combine, I think. Like, I don't know, man. I never engaged with Half-Life 2 beyond put the block on one side of the seesaw to progress further. But Gears of War had the Locust. Gray monster men with giant spider centipedes, weaponized anus monsters, bat piranhas, and insert poor taste jokes about women being too emotional here. Like those other factions, they all have an origin which is either still a secret or is teased out across multiple games and or books. Unlike them, however, the Locust are significantly younger of a faction by the time of their first appearance, and the original 3 games only last 17 years, making them also much more short-lived. Today, I'm going to explore where they came from, why they hate humanity, and who's to blame for all the misery in the original trilogy. Before we get too far into it, I would really appreciate if y'all would click like and hit subscribe. It would make my fucking day. I don't have a sponsor, I do this shit on my own out of pocket, so it'd be really cool if YouTube would be nice to me. It won't be, because this is not a happy topic. Alright, let's fucking do this. 80-ish years before Emergence Day, a doctor by the name of Helen Cooper was studying an unusual yellow liquid thought to be completely useless: emulsion. While doing so, she discovered the light mass process. This converted emulsion to virtually limitless power, so much more efficient than uranium and much safer for the environment than petroleum, at the time anyway. Lambda mutations didn't happen yet, and long-term side effects were completely unknown. This discovery eventually led to a complete shift in industry for the nations with emulsion. Those with would thrive, and those without would fall apart. Naturally, the COG and UAR were in possession of large amounts, but wanted more. Because expansionism and the conflict that comes with it is inevitable, this would lead to the Pendulum Wars. Those will get their own video eventually, but needless to say, the most efficient energy source ever discovered was very important to the war effort. Now, emulsion needed to be mined and then refined, and that took blue-collar workers exposing themselves to all kinds of fucked up shit to hit a quota. The children of these miners and refinery workers developed a condition that came to be known as rust lung. Super tuberculosis was as deadly as it sounds, but the emulsion industry was so valuable and kept the military functioning, so the COG decided to work on a cure in secret so as to not scare the shit out of its people and make the economic crash that emulsion speculation caused a complete waste. Yeah, the economy went up in fucking flames because the fossil fuel industry became quite literally worthless overnight, and there was no environmental pressure behind solar or wind to shame people into investing into them. Almost like basing too much of your economy on a single industry that's beholden to technological advancement and has significant downsides inherent to its existence is a bad idea or something. Unrelated, but did you know that the AI bubble is mainly centered in one company that's worth a fifth of the US's GDP at the time of recording? Yeah, that's probably fine, don't worry about it. Anyway, the COG built the New Hope research station disguised as a lumber mill or a workyard or something. You visit it in 2 games and there's buzzsaw launchers for logging all over the place in Gears 5, because of course there is. Valuable saw blades are best used as a projectile, so you can cut that tree down all the way over there and not move from your front lawn. In any event, this facility is run by a man named Dr. Niles Sampson. The infected kids were brought to the facility, one of which, Mira, was seemingly blessed by the emulsion exposure. Rapid cell regeneration, severely slowed aging, and a heightened immune system, plus complete immunity to the negative effects of rust lung. Because fucked up mad scientists traumatizing kids is a great trope, finding a cure for it meant trying to replicate her immunity in the other children. At some point, Dr. Sampson ventured into the caves below the mountains known as the Hollows and saw some native creatures living alongside large amounts of unrefined emulsion with 0 ill effects. This man, being a geneticist, had the great idea to inject the other kids with DNA from said hollow creatures and just see what happens. Rockworms. He jammed needles that were full of rockworm DNA into children who were already suffering from coughing to death disease. Probably some got the primates that eventually became the Brumach, but like, what the fuck, dude? What the fuck? This succeeded exactly 1 singular time. The first time, rendering the child functionally immortal, but turned him into this thing. That child, his name ended up being Ukon. I don't know if he had like a name before that, but his name is now Ukon. The Locust geneticist responsible for Brumachs, taming the Corpsers, the Hydra, Shibboleth, etc. Anything that the Locust used that's like a fucked up monster, he's responsible for. Every other child mutated into what would be known as a sire, since Samson believed they'd sire the next step in humanity. Bazinga. Obviously that shit didn't look out. Look at these things. And it turns out they're all insane, aggressive, violent, and unpredictable. Watch what one of them can do to a fully grown gear. Fun. Fast forward a bit through human rights violations against children in the name of creating super soldiers, as a mad scientist does, and a couple of the guards and doctors at New Hope began to realize they weren't really doing good things and went full whistleblower. The fact that people were getting attacked and killed by the Sires was probably more impactful than a heavy conscience, though. One of which was a guard named Sid Redburn. After showing the data to a high-ranking military official in the COG, it eventually reached the then chairman, Monroe, which led to a whole investigation into the facility. As a result, it was officially shut down and everybody involved was indicted. Unfortunately, the story does not end there. Before the shit hit the fan for Samson, a fringe political party within the COG, mainly made up of rich oligarchs, because of course the lizard people would be willing to do this shit, saw Samson's work as vital to ending the Pendulum Wars and, more importantly, curing rust lung. You can't make $1 gazillion off of cheap labor if said labor force keeps getting sick and dying. They offered to relocate his entire operation to a secret facility inside the nearby Mount Kadar. This obviously being illegal, they had to hoof it through the snow to get there, as any vehicles would attract the attention of the chairman and their administration. So, a doctor, some of his assistants, some guards, and a bunch of fucked up kids and mutants walking through the fucking snow on the side of a mountain. Yup. And once there, shit somehow got way worse. Ukon became an incredibly intelligent, sadistic shithead, the Sires kept killing people, and Samson, the evil genius that he was, created the first Berserker, the Matriarch. He did this by splicing Mira's embryonic stem cells with that of the Sires. Skipping over the logistics of this next part, because this is YouTube and I haven't written a tactful way to approach this subject yet, the Matriarch gave birth to the first Locust drones, all of which had a psychic link with Mira through the hive mind because the emulsion organism was a fungus, I think, meaning they could communicate telepathically with each other and Mira could control them remotely. Soon after this, she would fall in love with one of her doctors, Dr. Torres, since she was Samson's assistant, kind of, and give birth to her daughter, Reyna. Now, we need to talk about something real quick. I want to establish some facts. So the Pendulum Wars started in 79 before Emergence, which is 79 years before Emergence Day. This game's timeline works in BE and AE, before Emergence, after Emergence. So the Pendulum Wars started in 79 BE. One of the doctors under Samson, Dr. Torres, was invited to work on curing rust lung. Mira was born in 58 BE. She came down with rust lung and was taken to New Hope sometime when she was a child, where it was discovered that her aging was significantly slowed due to emulsion exposure. The doctor that discovered this was Dr. Torres. Torres and Mira entered a romantic relationship, and Mira's daughter, Reyna, was born in 30 BE. I'll be as charitable as possible, even though I absolutely could not be based on the pictures that we have of Mira arriving at New Hope, but let's just assume that Torres was a boy genius at 18 when he went to work for Samson. Mira got rust lung when she was 1, and that New Hope opened its doors the exact same year that happened. That is at minimum, 17-year age disparity from the start. Don't forget that Torres was working directly with Mira, as he was the one who discovered that she was immune to rust lung and was aging slower than other people. Look, I don't want to mention this directly, as the wise and powerful YouTube will probably hide my video in the dumpster even further down than it already is because I have a potty mouth. But if you do the math, Mira was a victim in yet another way. Oh, and Samson not only knew about them fucking, but encouraged it so he could run tests on their offspring. Jesus fucking Christ. Now, some good news, kind of. Fatherhood made Torres grow a conscience, so he fled with his infant child, who also had Mira's slowed aging, boosted immune system, and shared a telepathic link to the hive mind. No, but he fled with her to prevent Samson from running tests on her. Now, Samson told Mira that her daughter died in the escape attempt, which was probably the dumbest shit he could have done. Mira would grow to resent humanity for this, like fundamental hatred at her core. No forgiveness, less than vermin, fuck you with a rake sideways hatred. She stopped considering herself human, instead believing herself to be one of the Locusts, even writing in the language that they developed. She also became aware that she was literally trapped by the staff of Mount Kadar, because she was still like the focus, right? They were trying to replicate her immunity in other kids, in other like test subjects. Now, the main goal did kind of stray into making genetically engineered super soldiers, but she was a guinea pig, just helping out and volunteering. She was groomed. She was being fucking groomed. Dr. Niall Samson would realize too late the mistake he made, as Mira had been slowly testing the limits of her psychic powers, I guess, with the drones and the Matriarch, until she had an army capable of rebelling against their captors. Now, I know it may come as a surprise to you, but the engineered mutant super soldiers were surprisingly capable at beating the shit out of a bunch of nerds in lab coats with metal pipes. Shocker, I know. Samson hit the panic button and flash froze the entire facility, but it was way too late by that point. Everybody important was dead. And to be fair, the freeze also killed everybody else, including him. He fucking died when the facility froze. But years before all this went down, he had built an automated security system ran by an artificial intelligence based on his own consciousness, so he didn't, like, you meet him again in Game 2 and Game 5, because he's the spooky host of the haunted laboratory set pieces that you meet there, so that's why he shows up again. But Mira and the surviving Locust made their way into the tunnels under Mount Kadar, where they would establish their capital of Nexus, and spread out within the Hollows, which extended all over Seraph, funnily enough. This would more or less last for the next 30 years, until E-Day. Yeah, the Locust did have to fight their own battles down there, but that's a story for another time. And that's how the Locust came to be. Most of this information comes from Gears of War 2 and Gears 5, but some small pieces come from the comics too, and anything involving Ukon comes from Gears Tactics, which is good. Play it. The standard gameplay loop of Gears of War translates exceptionally well to a tactics game. I did not think I was going to enjoy it. It is very much a good video game, so I highly recommend it if you've got Game Pass. It's very good. But that's gonna do it for me today. Thank you for watching. I do appreciate your support. If you got any questions or you want me to talk about another topic in the future, I would love to hear about it in those comments down below, and I will be down there talking to whoever. So, yeah. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day.